This session we will focus on two other important features of object-oriented programming. Those are data encapsulation and data hiding. So if you think about a real world scenario, if you take the case of an organization, say or college or school, in the office section we will have different sections, right? Yeah, like academic section will be there, accounting section will be there. And suppose the academic session want to access the data from account session. Can we directly access the data? No, right? There can be some persons authorized to provide this information. Only through that person, this academic session can access the data from this accounting session. Like that, it is not designed in such a way that everyone can access the data from everywhere. There is some restrictions, right? Yeah, some protection over the data. And the same concept can be implemented in this case object oriented programming, and that is through this data encapsulation. We already know what's a class, right? Yeah, a class contains both data, that is our attributes or properties, whatever call it as, right? That is the data actually, and a set of methods that operate on this data. These data and the corresponding methods together we are calling as the class. So class is actually a method of encapsulating or protecting data. We will see how this data is actually protected. So idea of wrapping data and the methods that work on data within one unit, that is called data encapsulation. Why we making such a data encapsulation? Yeah, this will put restriction on accessing variables and method directly. So if we are using this encapsulation feature, it is not designed in such a way that everyone can access every data or every method. So there is some specific regulations or restrictions through that is some data it can be accessed only through some methods. We cannot directly access. So such restrictions will definitely prevent accidental modification of data. So if you think about the case of a function-oriented programming, every data or every variable is accessible throughout the program, right? So there is a lot of chance that these data variables may be got accidentally modified by some functions and all. But here that is not the case. Everything is encapsulated and clear definitions are there that who can access which data, like that. So to prevent accidental change, the object's variable can be changed by an object's method only. It cannot be directly accessed by some other object. Whereas data of a particular object can be modified through the method of that object only. So we'll see what are the different access modifiers. So different data or different methods of a class can be defined either private, protected, public, like that, using some access modifiers. So by defining in this way, it will clearly say who can access the method, who can access the data, like that. So these variables which are confidential or strictly private to a particular class is called private variables. And class is definitely an example for this type of data encapsulation. So data encapsulation, we can see that in the case of a class, we have a set of data variables for a class and a set of methods that operate on these variables. That these two together is called actually a class, right? So this is a better example for data encapsulation. We'll see some examples for how this data can be modified within a class. Who can access the data, like that. So for that we have access modifier, right? So in case of Python there is no specific keywords and all, but using a specific type of convention on naming the variable or methods, we can say that those are public, private or protected. So you can see here that we have a class called minor. Inside that we have two different variables, data. These are the data for this class, ID and name. Just before that variable, you can see a single underscore. That means these data members are protected members. Protected means only the base class and its subclasses can access this data directly. No other external class or external object can access the data directly. So here the subject details, the corresponding method is also defined as protected. Okay. Now we can see here that this corresponding class is got instantiated. We are creating an object M, and we are trying to print the corresponding data here. M.id and M.name are printed here, and we are invoking the corresponding method also. So what will be printed as output? Yeah, M.id is actually this value will be printed. M.name also will be printed, and we are invoking the method here. So corresponding method will be invoked and the statement will be executed. Protect method will be displayed. So this is actually working because we are accessing the data and method within the object itself, right? Yeah. Now coming to the second type of access modifiers, those are private members. So those are actually similar to protected members. Difference is that the class members declared private should neither be accessed outside the class nor by any base class. So if a particular data or method is defined as private, it should not be accessed outside the corresponding class. Okay, so we'll see an example for that. So in Python, there is no existence of private instance variable that cannot be accessed except inside a class. It should be accessed only within the class, otherwise it will create an error. To define a private member, prefix double underscore. This is actually double underscore. So protected members, one underscore, that single underscore will be prefixed for each and every variable or method, and for private members, double underscore will be the. So you can see here the same class minor with two variables. Here it is defined with double underscore, right? That means these two members are actually private to this class, and this method is actually protected. That means its subclass can also access this subject details method, whereas these two members are purely private members to this class. It should not be accessed outside this class. You can see here m is equal to minor. We created a new object for this minor class, and we try to access this private variable id and name here. What will happen? We are trying to invoke or access that variables outside the class definition, right? Yeah, outside the class definition. So definitely it will create an error. Attribute error. Minor object has no attribute this because it is confidential. It is hidden from the outside world. So this interpreter say that attribute error, there is no such an attribute id for this minor class. So it can be accessed only within the class using this method, and through this method only outside world can get the value of this private variables. These are protected and public. So if there is no underscore or double underscore or single underscore, the corresponding variables are actually public. In that case, it can be accessed outside the corresponding class. So this is actually data hiding and encapsulation. So these are the references. Thank you.